Hi and welcome to the Mathemagic channel. How would we solve this equation? Let's go ahead and find out. Alright, so immediately off the bat we notice that we have A, B's and C's and we've only got two equations. Now typically speaking, when you have two equations you can solve for two unknowns, but here we have three unknowns and we've only got two equations. So we're going to need to find a special trick before we think of substitution or elimination, like we would classically do in questions like these. The first thing that we can do here is to label the equations 1 and 2. And notice that if you do equation 2 minus equation 1, on the right hand side you'll get 2021 minus 2020, and that'll give you a 1. So it feels like this is a good place to start. So 2 minus 1, so we're going to do the left hand side and the right hand side. So on the left hand side we'll get A plus BC, to which we're going to subtract AB plus C. So that's the left hand side. And on the right, we're going to get 2021 minus 2020, and that's quite a nice place to begin. Now, if we distribute the minus to the bracket, we're going to get A plus BC minus AB minus C, since the minus is given to everyone, and that's going to be equal to 2021 minus 2020, which is 1. So the right-hand side is quite nice. Now, on the left, always a good idea to put the A's with the A's and the B's with the B's and things like that. So we're going to say A minus AB and then say plus BC minus C and see if there's some kind of magic factorization that happens. Factorizing out by A, we get A factor of 1 minus B, and we'll have a C here, factor of B minus 1, and that's going to be equal to 1. So this is pretty good, but notice that we have 1 minus b and b minus 1, so that's not ideal. So maybe if we take a negative 1 out of this bracket, we can switch the b minus 1 into a 1 minus b. So we're going to do that, a factor of 1 minus b, and change the plus into a minus, so minus c factor of 1 minus b. And that's going to be equal to 1. Now there is a nice thing we can do here, is we can take 1 minus b out of both of these expressions and factorize. And so the factorized version is going to look a little bit like this. 1 minus b factor of a minus c equals 1. Now this is quite interesting because if the 1 is a whole number and we subtract b, which is a whole number, then the result of that is going to be a whole number. And when we do a minus c and both of them are whole numbers, then the result of that is also a whole number. So we have a multiplication here which is equal to 1. And it's a multiplication of two brackets which are equal to whole numbers. Now let's think about factors of 1. 1 has factors 1 times 1, or it can also be negative 1 times negative 1. Now this is going to become quite important here, since 1 minus b can either be equal to 1 or it can be equal to negative 1. So we can find equivalencies for 1 minus b and a minus c. So actually this is either going to be 1 times 1, or it can be negative 1 times negative 1. And both of these will be equal to 1. So this is leading us to some nice cases here. Now I've put the expressions on the right hand side for you. Either in case 1, the product of the brackets, so the two brackets, are going to be 1 times 1, or in case 2, the two brackets are going to be negative 1 times negative 1, and in both of these cases they'll be equal to 1. So as we work through case 1 here, let's imagine that 1 minus b is equal to 1. We can move the negative b to the right and the 1 to the left, and we get 0 equals b. So in equation 1, and when I mean the general equations, we're talking about these original equations. Now if we knew that b was 0, this would go away and this would go away, which would make our life quite easy. So in the first equation, if AB becomes 0 because B is 0, C will just be 2020, which is quite nice. And if we do the same thing with equation 2, in equation 2, we should be able to find a value as well. So BC will go to 0 and A will be equal to 2021. So this gives us a triplet of solutions, 0 for B, 2020 for C, and 2021 for A. So we can write that triplet down here just to make sure that we have it. So the number set A, B, C, the first solution set, is going to be equal to 2021 and 0 and 2020. That is the first solution set, ABC 2021, 0 and 2020. So let's explore the second case now, where we have a multiplication of two brackets, 1 minus b times a minus c, which is -1 and -1. So if 1 minus b was equal to -1, we can simply swap the negative b to the right and the 1 to the left, and we get 2 equals b. Now we can always plug this equation back into one of the original equations. So we can imagine that b is 2 for this first equation and b is 2 for the second equation. So in the first equation, so in equation 1, if b was 2, we would get 2a plus c, which is equal to 2020. And in the second line, we would get a plus 2c, which would be equal to 2021. Now this time we have a system of two equations with two unknowns, and we can use elimination or we can use substitution. Both are fine here. We can notice that if we multiply the second line by 2, if we were to just multiply this line by 2, we would get 2a as well, and those quantities would subtract quite nicely because 2a minus 2a is going to be 0. So let's go ahead and do that. We can rewrite our system as 2a plus c, which is 2020. And in our second line, we can have 2a plus 4c's, and that's going to be equal to 4042. So that the first line is the same one, and the second line 2 is going to be multiplied by 2. So if we subtract line 2 from line 1, we're going to get 2a plus 4c on the left-hand side minus 2a plus c. And on the right-hand side, we'll get 4042 minus 2020. So continuing here with the idea that b was equal to 2, and we're in case 2, right? On the left-hand side, we're going to get 2a minus 2a, which goes away, and then 4c minus c will give us 3c's. And on the right-hand side, we'll have 4042 minus 2020, which is 2022. And so 20 is quite nice. 2022 is quite nice because 2 plus 2 plus 2 is 6. And so this is definitely divisible by 3. So to finish this equation here, we're going to say c is equal to 2022 divided by 3. And luckily we have an integer solution, which is 674. So we have a b value, we have a c value, but we still don't have an a value. We do know that in case 2, however, the a value minus the c value is -1. That's going to be quite helpful here, so we can plug that in. A minus c equals -1. A minus 674 is equal to -1. So remembering here that c was 674. And a equals -1 plus 674, which is going to result in a being 673. And you should see that when you plug those numbers back in, 2 times 673 plus 674 is going to be 2020, and the second equation checks out as well. I'll invite you to check those out on your own, but these numbers seem to work out pretty well, so we're pretty happy with the solution. Now for this second case, it's important to always present your work properly. So you should say A, B, C, which is a triplet of numbers. And that's going to be equal to 673. And the B value is 2. And the C value is 674. Now this might seem like a little bit much, but you found two different triplets. And so the most proper way you could put this is to say that the first triplet, A1, B1, C1, so the first triplet of numbers not being the same as the second one, is 2021, 0, 2020. And the second triplet of numbers, which is going to be A2, B2, and C2, that's equal to 673, 2, and finally 674. So we have two separate, distinct triplets of numbers, which are both going to work for this equation. I hope you enjoyed solving this math equation with the Mathemagic channel. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel so we can keep bringing you more math content. Thank you so much for watching and see you on the next video. Bye bye.